going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams with The Distance. Got a video for you guys today. It's pretty much answering a question. Somebody asked me to do a video on this on when boxers need new trainers. But anyway, I'm going to start this off with actually pretty much something that kind of leads into the story. A lot of people don't know this. Years ago, I was actually a star athlete in school. When I was in high school, I was a star athlete. And I played a lot of different sports. I played basketball, I played football, I played baseball. And I did a lot of stuff. I even played soccer. And pretty much the sport I did the best in, was probably basketball. That's kind of what I did the best in. I did the best in basketball. I was a small forward, but I was the size of a point guard. And the reason I played small forward is because I was so long, and stuff. I'm still long to this day, but I was long, and I'm not that tall, but I was long, and really my final 2 years of school when I played basketball. My final 2 years, I remember pretty much being the least coachable player, in that whole district. The least coachable. And that was because I didn't listen to the coach. I didn't do what the coach told me to do. And pretty much, I remember there were people that were looking at me. I remember University of Georgia, and I remember some school in California. I don't remember the name. I think it wasn't Cal, it was another school, and there was some Catholic school, and some Christian school called McMurray. Nobody heard of that damn school. Wasn't going there, but but still, I was looked at by a few colleges and stuff. But my head was so big, my head was so far up my ass that I pretty much did what I wanted to do on the court. And the last game, I remember it was I had one of those little heroic moments. Had a 4-point play, won the game. Ended up getting the most valuable player award for it. I ended up getting and actually I got the trophy for it, like right here. See, like right here, I got my trophy for it. I got a medal for it right here. I got a medal for it. I got a small ass trophy because I played in a small district. But I was one of the leading players. I was one of the players in the league that was leading and scoring and all that stuff. But I was one of those guys that pretty much grew up on harsh times and had a chance to do something playing basketball. But I didn't listen to anybody. I didn't listen to the coach or anything, and that's what the scouts were looking for. They're looking for this. A, is he athletic, and 2, is he coachable, and 3, how are his grades? And the college system, who gives a fuck about grades? Kind of, all those college players don't even know how to fucking read. But I'm not downplaying college basketball and football players, but a lot of the ones that become big, they don't know how to read. I knew how to read and all that stuff, but anyway, the moral of the story was I didn't get picked up by any big college, even though I was good enough to, because I had a big head. I had a huge head, and I didn't listen to anybody. So this goes on to boxing with trainers. You can't really, with boxers, the number one thing that I think a lot of trainers look at is, number one, is he coachable? Similar to with basketball, football, tennis, whatever. Is he coachable? 2, is he athletic? And 3, how smart is he? That's really what every type of coach looks for in their athlete. Because 1, when he's athletic, then you can see how far he could push his body to the limit. If he's smart, then he could be a fast learner and become more intelligent in that craft that he's involved in. And pretty much, I did forget the last part to it, but all those apply to something when it comes to boxing, because boxing, because it's like this with boxing now, you're on your own, and the trainer can't go in the middle of the ring with you and fight for you. So I think fighters that were mentioned was Angulo and Chris Arreola, but I'm going to mention a few other fighters. Alfredo Angulo showed in that fight on Saturday that he can adjust, and his corner pretty much did a pretty good job with him adjusting to that style of Joel Julio. So do I think he needs Another trainer? No, I don't think he needs another trainer right now. But he did show a little bit of improvement compared to the Centron fight. When the Centron fight, he was coming in one direction, and he couldn't cut off the corners against Centron. So, no, I don't think Julio needs a new trainer. Cristobal Arreola definitely needs a new trainer, and I'll tell you why. Because it goes back to what I just said. Is he coachable? Or trainable? How athletic is he? And pretty much in my last part, what I was thinking about was discipline. Cristobal Arreola shows no discipline. He doesn't keep his body at a low weight, at a weight to where he can fight his best. So what Cristobal Arreola needs is that trainer that could bring out the best in him, and that's what a boxer wants in their trainer. Like with Miguel Cotto, we're hearing good stuff from the Stewart camp, but we're not going to know until June 5th, whether or not he's improved or not. But Cristobal Arreola definitely needs a new trainer. You can't have his homeboys drinking Coronas with him and doing his pad work and stuff with him. He doesn't need that. Miguel Cotto was a guy who needed new training for the last couple years or so, and with Emanuel Stewart, I think he's gonna get that heart back into the sport. And other than getting his heart back into the sport, he's gonna have a trainer that's not a pushover. And I think that's the problem with some of these boxers, is that they have trainers that are pretty much pushovers. And I think that with Roy Jones and Alton Murchison, I think that Alton Murchison is a pushover. I think that Arreola's trainer is a pushover. I thought that Santiago was a pushover. So these guys are straight up pushovers instead of disciplinarians or pretty much trainers. That's the last thing that you want in boxing is a pushover. That's the last thing that you want, a trainer that you tell what to do. That's pretty much walks to your ring with you and comes to the corner with you and just kind of doesn't really give you what you need to win the fight. And Jeff Mayweather said it best: a trainer, isn't there to tell you, pretty much tell you what you need to do and all that stuff. He's there to guide you. That's really what a trainer needs to do. And Santiago wasn't able to guide Miguel Cotto to a victory over Manny Pacquiao, the same way that possibly Emanuel Stewart would have been able to. Arreola's trainer, I don't remember his name, but wasn't able to guide him to that victory against one Klitschko and two Adamek. Wasn't able to guide him to that victory. And you can even bring up Jack Lowe. Jack Lowe proved that he's not necessarily a pushover, but he proved that pretty much that he couldn't lead Kelly Pavlik in the victory against Bernard Hopkins, because we saw in that fight he was confused. So really, I think that foundations for a good fighter is, one, definitely good training, and two, a good solid corner. I think that's really what a boxer needs, is a solid corner and a good trainer. A trainer that's going to be there and is going to pretty much give you the proper tools that you need and proper strategies to win the fight. That's really what a boxer needs. And I do believe that when a boxer isn't learning anything and they have a man in the corner that's not giving them what they need to learn and get better, then it's time to go to another trainer that will probably teach them the skills and help them become better boxers. Me, unfortunately, I didn't have that coach that could have helped me become a better player or better athlete, because of where I was from. I didn't have that coach that could help me. So, me, I didn't have that luxury of being able to walk up to this coach and say, "Hey, motherfucker, you're fired. Hey, come here, join me." I didn't have that luxury, but the boxers do. And, boxing is a business, and I think that a strong corner, brings a strong foundation to a boxer. But anyway, that's just my opinion. That was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.